What's up, everybody? Hello, and welcome to One Soccer. Great to be back with the gang. Eddie Petrillo
Welcome
alongside
back.
Ryan Platt, Gareth Wheeler. Good to be
We missed
back.
you.
I
The
missed
glue holds us together.
Although I do have to say it was really nice while you guys were holding down the fort during the first round of Champions Cup matches that I was in my jammies with popcorn watching. There's something nice about that. But here's the thing. Unfortunately, two of the three Canadian clubs in the competition are now out. Last night, MLS side Vancouver Whitecaps lost 3-0 to Liga MX club Tigres, 4-1 total on aggregate. Last year, as we know, Vancouver made it all the way to the quarterfinals, bowing out to LA. Tigres will now face the winner of Orlando Cavalry, the last remaining Canadian side. So, Wheels, when you look at the Vancouver Whitecaps in these last two games, just how do you think they look to you? What kind of indication does that give you for what the MLS season holds for them?
They look incomplete. That would be the main word that I'd focus on. They just don't look like a complete outfit yet. But I think one with great potential, and I think you saw flashes of what they can be for this upcoming season. I think there's a lot to like about the way that this squad is being constructed. It's always difficult playing essentially glorified or extended preseason games against teams and top teams in Liga MX like Tigres, who are in the middle of their campaign, fully fit. They know their roles. The players are all in really good form, and Vancouver Whitecaps players are still finding theirs. You're watching the roll in here. I mean, kind of mirrored the first leg, didn't it? Just a number of chances created. There were opportunities given, but just the inability to take care of it, and maybe a little bit indecisive or questionable in the attacking third. But I thought the buildup of play, I don't think that they were overawed or overworked or significantly outplayed by their opponent. They were right in this one up until the 85th minute of the second leg. Like, the fact they conceded first in the second half in the 51st minute, it just meant that Vancouver needed to score a goal to send it to extra time. The tie was still very much in the balance, but whether it was fitness or focus or just execution, they just weren't quite there. Just lastly, really, I think Kubas and Vite are really interesting players in the midfield. I think Krylak up top wasn't his best game in the second leg, but I think that he's a real fit. They really missed players in wide areas. Sam Adekubi, Ali Ahmad, put those two players into the team. Like Berhalter as a makeshift wingback didn't really work out. So they needed those two players back, and they will be back over the course of the coming weeks. Probably need to add another player in that position. And I still think that they're an attacker short, just in terms of bringing in someone else, maybe a little bit more pace, someone to spell Brian White or join in tandem at times. But I think they're on the right track. And I think that they're in building towards what could be a really good season for them.
Yeah, I think for me, like throughout the 180 minutes in this tie, Vancouver had real opportunities to be in a really strong position to win the tie. Like first leg, they had very good chances to go 2 goals up and really take control in the home leg. And then away from home in Mexico, great chances to take the lead in that game, great chances to make it 1-1 in that game, which would have taken them to extra time. So I think it was a tie really of missed opportunities. There's a lot I like about this team. I think defensively, despite what the scoreline says, there was real improvement here from last year. Laborda, I thought, looked like he'd taken a big step forward from where he was. Veselinovic and Blackman, still relatively young players as well, who I think will continue to get better. Like Will said, in the midfields, if they're going to play more of a 2 this season, I really like the combination of Kubas and Vite and just how they could potentially mesh and the different qualities they bring. Vite a bit more of kind of the deep playmaker, and Kubas, we know what he can do in terms of that ball winning ability. And they have added further forward, I think, some real threats when you look at what Krylak was able to do in the first leg and then Pico off the bench in both legs as well. There are still just some gaps to fill in. Wingback is a big one, not only in terms of new signings to come in, but players to come back. Sam Adekubi, obviously, Ali Ahmed, I think will be used there at least somewhat this season as well. So that, I think, was a little bit of a weakness. And then I think if you're looking at this team is a playoff team. I don't have any worries about that. If you're looking at wanting to really take this to the next level and make a dent in the MLS playoffs and in the Leagues Cup and the other competitions they play in, I do still think they need another dynamic attacking player. Whether it's someone who's coming from wing back or someone who's playing further forward, I lean towards the latter. I think that's still what they're missing a little bit in this team. And they have that open DP spot with Lorea seemingly not coming back. We'll see, what they do if they use it, if they wait till the summer. But that to me is kind of the missing link of how you take this team from being good to really being in contention against teams like Tigres.
And I understand in the last few years, we have seen MLS sides win this competition. We've seen them get better, but it kind of does give you the what coulda, shoulda been scenario. We always know the timing of this. I mean, MLS, their season doesn't start for another couple weeks. CPL, and we're going to recap once again Forge's performance in just a moment, but their season doesn't start for another couple months. I mean, Wheels, are we always, it's just kind of the way it is that we're always going to be talking about MLS and CPL sides being at a disadvantage when taking on Liga MX sides?
I'm not sure what the alternative solution would or could be, to be honest with you, with MLS adding competitions and the international calendar filling up even more so. Like this summer, Leagues Cup back up and running, the US Open Cup, Canadian Championship back up and running as well. You have Copa America, you have Nations League, you have preparations for this, that. The fixture list is absolutely full. And this seems to be the only year that you can make it work. So it puts more of an onus for all teams to play more of a full 12-month calendar. I mean, with intermittent time off, I mean, it's difficult in terms of the weather. I mean, top leagues around the world essentially have 6 weeks off, and that's about it. They're back at it. That's going to always be the challenge for this league as we move forward, even more so. And we'll get to Forge about the Canadian Premier League. It's just playing at this time of year, the Liga MX sides will always have a competitive advantage, at least in the first round of the competition. After that, things open up as MLS teams get into their season, but that's always going to be a significant challenge. These games come at the perfect time for clubs like Tigres, Chivas, Club America, so they're going to be put in a better position to win it. I'm honestly not sure what the solution is. I like the new tournament format. I love what it means for Canadian clubs, more opportunity. But if we're going to be honest, MLS and CPL clubs are really up against it heading in.
Well, I think this was a big disadvantage for Vancouver in particular this year. Like, they're the only MLS team playing right now. All of the others are playing on the later dates, right? So a bit closer, at least to the start of their season. Yeah. So at least, you're playing your first game of the year still, but at least your preseason's pretty much done and you're kind of primed and ready to go. And they're also the only MLS team playing a Liga MX team in this first round. So they got it as bad as it could get really this year. I think the MLS teams, it will get a bit better for them in terms of the scheduling and the calendar. They've brought their season forward a little bit over the past few years to try and help in that regard, I think. CPL teams are going to be in tougher. We don't have the ability really to bring the season forward to February and play in the warm weather markets because we don't have any. And so it's always going to be that gap, right, between, entering this competition and the CPL season probably starting. Maybe you can bring it forward to March at some point. I don't know. But right now, it's obviously April is the best we can do.
Thanks for reminding me of how cold I am. But yes, we also are even hearing rumors. So CPL teams and even League One to an extent, not at a complete disadvantage, even in the Canadian Championship, and perhaps that being pushed back by a month, normally starting in April. Maybe that'll start in May. We're still waiting to hear on that. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but right now when it comes to Champions Cup, it is what it is. And we know that Forge fell to Chivas in their opening round, that aggregate 5-2. Ollie, what did you take away from their performance? And also, again, as they look ahead to the start of the CPL season, what additions do you think they need to make?
They need more threat around the box. I think that's it with Forge. Everything else to me looks pretty good. I was impressed, with a player like Matusala taking a step forward into a bigger role. They had some rough moments at the back, particularly in the first leg, and maybe that's just kind of the early season rust and obviously the quality of the opposition as well. But I thought there was a lot to like about the way those guys battled through 2 legs. The midfield looks very strong again. They showed real ability to play through an excellent side. A side with a far bigger budget, far more talent on paper than they did. It was just when they got to the penalty area, they struggled to produce moments to really hurt Chivas. I thought there was, until the goal in that second leg, there was a lot of good passages of play that just ended with a shot from 25 yards. They couldn't really seem to get the penetration beyond that. So that to me is what Forge need. I think from watching a bit of Ampoma and the way that Bobby Smyrniotis has described him as an explosive player, he looks like someone who can get in behind the back line, really challenge defenders in a way that they just don't have right now, in my opinion. Cisse gives you a bit of that from midfield as well. He's a very direct kind of north-south player. But that's it for me. I think this team looks very promising. Looks like it's going to be a top CPL contender again. They just need a bit more end product and a bit more threat to defenses, I think, in the final third.
They were excellent over the course of the 2 legs, Andy. Tip of the cap to Forge. Like, they did not look out of place whatsoever. I understand that Chivas rotated some of their squad, but a lot of first-team players and first-team regulars did feature. And I just like the way that Forge went about their business. They knocked around the ball. I thought they played some really good football in the process as well. So I think that they deserve a lot of credit. There were some standout performances in the Forge team, and Ollie touched on the first name. It's a name that I brought up months ago. I'm actually surprised he's still in Hamilton. Garvin Matusala. This guy can play. This guy, for my money, could be the best defender in the Canadian Premier League for this upcoming season. I thought his distribution was good. He's athletic. He's quick, good feet, good positioning. Gets stuck in a tackle. Just such a good player. Oluwabi Bellewu was good as well, but I think maybe gets overshadowed to a certain degree by how good Matusala is. I just think the sky's the limit with this player. I really rate him. Ollie said it, like Taron Campbell, as reliable as they come, it's very difficult to find number 9s in the Canadian Premier League. But I think they can maybe bring in a different profile. I think they might need a little bit more quickness in attack. Maybe a player that can get in behind the lines. Forge does really well holding up the ball. It's in their DNA. But maybe a little bit of a quicker player that can maybe attack or challenge in a little bit of a different way. I think they need a right back. There were a couple players short. I think Colongo, the goalkeeper, did well. And Dito Bontis, the back, he's a good goalkeeper as well. So they could end up rolling with both of those goalkeepers if Tristan Henry doesn't come back. But I think a right back, another attacking player. And if Forge really had their eyes set and cast on doing some serious damage in this competition, the 2 new players that they brought in, they would have played. They would have brought in more recruits. Like Cavalry, by virtue of those 2 extra weeks of preparation, have a more complete squad in terms of new recruits. I think that Forge was a little bit limited in terms of their bench. That being said, Tavernier, 17-year-old, gets a goal. Really excited about what his future looks like. So I think it's a feel-good story all around for Forge. Big home crowd, good away performance, more excellent experience for this group of young Canadian players.